Test the sound again first. Okay, everyone say something.
No.
Can you hear me?
Say something, I'm
Dave time? Test.
Can you hear me?
Nope.
Call out all the betrayals first. Okay, so welcome to the fourth episode of the Crackstreet Boys Podcast.
Oh, we're on?
Not anymore.
No, we still are. Today we have a special episode because today is the betrayal episode. The top 5 anime betrayals where, you know, some of the Crackstreet Boys decided education is more important than making a podcast for our viewers. But, you know, to each their own. I used to consider nothing right. So yeah, actually we were supposed to have a special guest today, but that guest has been moved to next week, and I think everyone will have it'll be an interesting episode for sure. Something very different and a little more serious probably than what we normally do. So today, because of our short-membered situation, because of all these betrayals, Nick Thompson, Derek, we were gonna just go over a couple of Richard too, but Richard has a legit reason. Some various topics that we just kind of picked out, some of which might be more relevant than others. So we're gonna start with something an actual topic. So we were looking at YouTube chiropractors, which are becoming more of a phenomenon these days, I feel, especially with the new YouTube algorithms. If you look up chiropractic or chiropractic adjustment or anything related to chiropractors on YouTube, most of it is legitimately it's just clickbait compilations. I'm looking at like the top 3 or 4 hits that are posted in the last like month or so, and they're all kind of like close-ups of patients in a kind of a precarious position. And basically, it's all clickbait, but they all have millions of views. Legitimately, over 2 million views, over 1 million views, 1.5, 1.2, like 2 million, almost 3 million views. And I don't know, we just kind of wanted to discuss what we think about that and what we think about that kind of representation of chiropractic on the video internet.
Andrew Lee Chan?
I'm just scrolling through like my YouTube, I guess, like searching as well, and just like seeing like what comes up first, and I'm noticing like Isaac said, a lot of like the compilation videos, they have like millions of views, and then whereas like some of the more, or at least like I haven't watched them all, but like some of the videos that look more educational based or like more like clinical based don't have as many views. So I feel like that it shows something about like what people are like. It shows something about like what people see when they search for chiropractic for the first time. If they don't know, right? Like what is their first impression, right, when they see clinicians, right? So I feel like that can impact their first visits, right? Because everyone, like, if they've never had an adjustment before, I mean, it's pretty normal to like, go like search up on the internet, like, oh, like what is an adjustment, or like what does it look like, right? And I feel like when people see this for the first time, sometimes they can give off the wrong impression, sometimes they can give off the right impression depending on what they're watching, right? So.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that point that you brought up there, Andrew, and just, you know, it's definitely super important to have that great first impression for anything, really. So when it comes to chiropractic, which can sometimes be seen in a couple different lights, it's very important that the right message gets put across, that we're an evidence-based profession, that it's very professional and we know what we're doing, and not some of these videos that seem relatively unprofessional or clickbait, like Isaac said. So it's just finding the right ways to actually get around this. I don't know where we'd go about trying to do that kind of stuff, but
Yeah, like, I don't know, like, I just think we should just have a discussion on it. Like, it's impossible to kind of think of a solution now because we don't really have an influence over anything, and part of it is the YouTube algorithm. Like,
I think that's a big
they
part
changed
of
it a while ago, so that's why like everything's clickbait now. If you make a video that literally says like how to bake a cake, and you're actually baking a cake, you're not gonna get views. You'd have to like write, you know, how to get out of the Dave zone or something, and then in the video it's like you baking a cake or something like that, something to draw the viewers in. So I kind of understand where they're coming from, but
Yeah, to actually expand upon a little bit on that, I feel like there's not necessarily the most professional image that's being projected right now on YouTube of chiropractic. The first link that I'm seeing right now doesn't look too bad. There's a patient being seen by a chiropractor, but the next two aren't necessarily. I can barely even see the clinician's hands in there. It's primarily just focused on like a female patient, so it's not like the best professional image that's being projected. And at the same time, the captions aren't the best either. A lot of them are just like the best of adjustments, and a lot of them are more so that. So I feel like moving on, this is more so something that might need to change a little bit in order to for the chiropractic field to look a little bit better.
Okay, so, sorry. Just as a disclaimer, like, so we're talking more about the media portrayal of chiropractic. We're in no way saying that like the practitioners or like what's happening in the videos is unprofessional anyway, right? Because I mean, like we're just saying that the videos don't portray chiropractic in its entirety. Like what a clinician can do. Like they don't go through the whole process of like the patient history, patient interview. They all the videos just go through is just literally just like the crack, right? What people want to hear. So yeah. Anyways, go ahead.
I think that's a problem with the like YouTube audience though. Like people go on YouTube for their entertainment, not. Sometimes they go for like educational videos, but
more so
yeah. For entertainment. So I think that's why a lot of the videos are geared toward that direction, and yeah.
Yeah, I think as well, maybe it's more of a role for the practitioners in their fields where they are making sure that any new patients they have are going to the right places to figure out what's going on. So like you said, Isaac, it's just conversation we're having about what we're seeing and just, you know, how it affects us and how we see it.
At the same time, like I can see like how things like YouTube, maybe I don't know if it's still true these days, but I think it's a super powerful media portrayal tool and even an advertising tool. Like if we're living in Ontario, not even in the U.S. and I think like almost everyone at the school knows about like the ring dinger, which is like kind of amazing in that like it's just a single guy who kind of coined a catchphrase for a certain, I guess, adjustment, if you want to call it that. I mean, I'm not saying nothing. I'm just saying, you know, if you want to take, if you want to get a dirty hand towel and over, you know, I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not saying nothing bad. I'm just saying, you know, it's, if you want to give my ox put a little bit of pop, I don't mind. I'm just saying, it's amazing because we're living so far away, and then we're like kind of using those coined phrases and talking about that clinician who like is like thousands of kilometers away from us, and that's kind of the power of media and social media. And I mean that's that's a topic for another day, like social media and how we feel like it can be used and is being used to promote your brand or like increase your I don't know, like visibility to the public. And to be honest, I feel like even though a lot of clinics these days do use social media, I feel like the generation gap is still a little bit there in terms of like its effectiveness. So I honestly think that, you know, when it comes times for us to market ourselves, it'll probably be I don't know, we might be more a little in touch, if that's the right word. But I'm kind of going on a tangent. On terms of the whole YouTube thing, I think that if it's used properly, you can actually make incredible amounts of kind of exposure for yourself. Even if it has to be clickbait, but like, I mean, if I was a chiropractor and my video is getting 2 million views a video, not to mention the income that you get from advertisements, but you always like all the people that are watching, it's gonna reach so many different people, And if it's a video that's, you know, legitimate and you're just trying to like market yourself, I don't see what's so wrong about that. And I think that's a really good tool you can use to promote yourself. Another funny example, I guess, is there's a chiropractor in LA called Ryan Lee, and he made like a really weird kind of advertisement for his clinic. I think some of you might have seen it. At that time, he had like kind of like longish hair, and he was like staring at the camera doing these adjustments, and it was really kind of weird. But that video had millions and millions of views. And if you look up like Ryan Lee chiropractic, you'll know the video that I mean. And I recently actually saw a video of him, and he legitimately looks like a decent chiropractor. I was actually like, he had really good patient skills, and it seemed like his hand skills were good. And he got a haircut. His hair was fresh as hell. But like, that's the thing. Like, if you can, like, once you get yourself out there, and if you happen to go viral, or if you happen to, you know, in a positive way, I think that kind of exposure, kind of like, I don't know, it can be life changing. But yeah, so that's just a little bit of our thoughts on YouTube chiropractors. We're just gonna kind of keep it a little bit mellow, since, you know, we're a PG podcast for this week only. So to go on a bit of a lighter note, we want to talk about some procrastination tips, because we have one of the masters of procrastination here, possibly the greatest procrastinator that mankind has ever known. I want to introduce Nicholas Chow. Oh! I switched it up. You thought I was going to say somebody else.
Okay, what? What was the question?
What are your top procrastination tips? How do you procrastinate and not feel bad?
I don't know how to answer that.
The Chuck can't answer anymore.
Deja vu to episode 1.
Yeah, okay, well, we're gonna go to Ryan, another master procrastinator.
Yeah, so the true procrastinator here. What I find helps me to not feel bad about procrastinating is making sure you have something to do that you think is more important than school.
Such as?
Well, there's nothing more important than school. I'm a complete liar. But if you do have something, you know, that you need to do, get that done first, and then school later. School will always be there for you. And see, I don't feel bad
Unlike
about
some
that.
people who told me from day one that the ride or dies, but so I'm eating something.
Pass some of that salmon. No.
Hell no. Gonna make my gains.
Isaac Kim, his biceps are getting huge now.
Man, some people, they tell you day one, you're like a brother to me. I'm there with you till the end, and then they decide, you know, one day, you know what, I'm not a Crackstreet Boy today. You know what that does to a man's heart? You know, you can go through relationships, you can fight through failure, you can fight through adversities, but when a brother tells you, I'm a brother to you, and then one day they tell you, I'm gonna go study. You know, breaks my heart.
I don't think I understood that.
Okay, so I'm gonna give my top procrastination tip. So when I go home and I see that I have to, like, I don't know, listen to a recording that I missed or something like that, or write a reflection, what I do is I will open up the document. If you don't open up the document, that guilt will sit on you for the rest of the night. The first that you have to open up the document, open up the PowerPoint, open up the Word doc, write your name, save it.
Yeah, you make sure your computer has enough RAM.
And then like, then if you ever, like, you know, close your document, you go to Word and you go File Open, you'll see like assignment, like April 5, and it'll be like, oh shit, I already did it, but you didn't. But mentally, oh shoot, you did it. But mentally you'll think like, oh, I did some progress, so damn, I get a reward. So you watch some Netflix, you go out to play some baseball, you go walk your dog, you go for some coffee, you clean your room, and then it's like 7 p.m., 8 p.m. It's like, I gotta eat dinner, and then you literally cannot live without food. You can put electric to another day, but if you can literally not live without food, so you eat. It's like 8:30. Gotta do your dishes. It's like 9:30, and at that point, you gotta wake up for 8 a.m. anatomy. But even if you don't go, it's on the schedule, right? It's like a mental thing. You know you're not gonna go. You should go, but like, really, like deep inside your mind, are you gonna go? And that's a question that you gotta ask yourself. But so it's like 10 now. You still got your document open, and it's like. It's a Thursday night, but the assignment's due Friday at midnight. So are you really going to do it tonight? Tomorrow you only have 2 classes. So no, you close it because you're like, okay, I already wrote the title. I already kind of like wrote my name and my student number. It's like, it's only 500 words, so might as well just do it tomorrow. So you go to bed in peace. You don't have to go to bed crying. You go to bed in peace. You wake up, you go to your classes. It's like 3 p.m. now. You go work out, maybe it's like 5.
And then you cry.
And then it's like, it's due in 7 hours, but you're at school and you want to go home because it's Friday, so you go home. Now it's like 6:30. You eat dinner. It's like 7. It's like, okay, now I really got to get going. But then a new episode of your favorite show came out, so you think like this assignment will take more than 30 minutes at most. So like, there's no danger of me not finishing it. So it's like 8:30. But at that point you're kind of tired, so you take a nap. It's like 10. Now you're really on the red zone because it's due in 2 hours, but you look on Cairo and you see who's online. You know how it shows in the little button and it says the number is like 114. So then you feel better because everyone else did the same thing as you. So then in conclusion, that's kind of like my best procrastination tip. You just got to take it one step at a time.
And there you go. There is Isaac's 500 words for his reflection.
There you go.
On that note, I think we're going to take a quick break here, and then we'll be right back.
Okay, we are back, and today's a glorious day because the Anatomash table is back, baby! Woo! I love the Anatomash table. So today we're going to talk about some of our favorite study resources at CMCC. Let's go around in a circle. Let's start with Dave Tam, who has graciously devoted his time. He's wearing a new red shirt. I've never seen him with this red shirt before. It's plain red, but it fits him really nice, and he looks jacked as hell. And
Oh, thank you, Isaac Kim. So some of my favorite resources for anatomy. I love listening to the Ackland's Anatomy. So we have that resource online.
Yeah.
It is probably one of the best and most helpful resources. It allows me to visually basically break down each part of anatomy. And there's a wonderful speaker that basically guides you through each part of anatomy. It's explaining all the muscle insertions.
it's a very, very soothing voice.
So, thank you, Isaac Kim. So
I'm talking about...
For the record, Isaac was talking about Ackland, not Dave Tam.
Oh man, I thought I had a soothing voice. So to get back on topic, yes, Ackland does have a very soothing voice, and he is very, very good at explaining anatomy concepts if you are a very visual learner. So it's very helpful for content that may seem a little bit dry or a little bit hard to conceptualize, especially 2D on a sheet of paper. He's able to basically go through cadavers and explain how certain nerve pathways work or how certain muscles pull. So it's a very good resource that I really like, as well as also an anatomy app that's available on the iPad called Complete Anatomy. It's a great resource tool that basically renders like 3D models of various anatomy, anatomical body parts, and then afterwards we're able to trace certain nerve pathways, muscles, blood supply, and also take a look to see how certain muscles pull as well.
It's actually so useful that our own anatomy professor is starting to use it, like incorporating in class, and she's given it the seal of approval for the most part. My only advice about it is that don't get it at full price. Don't get debated. It's always on sale, and like I'm pretty sure like you email them, like they can email you like a discount code anywhere from like 50 to 80% I've seen. So I know some people have to buy it at full price, but that's like, I mean, it kind of sucks. It's like, what is it, like $60-something?
Yeah, it's a little bit.
I mean, it's still worth it. Honestly, it's still worth it at full price.
Yeah.
But you can get it for less than 30 for sure. I think I paid like $18-20 or something, or less than that.
It's worth it. It's worth
It may almost be worth it to have class reps talk with the professor for anatomy and see if there's a way to get a group rate for it through.
I almost think I've seen it at 80% off a couple of times, and I know they had a discount at like Christmas. They had a discount at like even Valentine's Day, I think.
Oh, okay. That's pretty interesting.
Christmas for sure. I think they had a Halloween sale too. I don't know. But Nick Shaw, what's your favorite resource at school? The DI Test Yourself?
Everything radiology.
Those are actually pretty good.
Everything radiology is
Like,
pretty good.
if you you have to know your stuff first though. Like if you know your stuff and then use the DI Test Yourselves, they provide pretty good examples for you to go through, what to see, and then it's also pretty close to what's on the exam, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but make sure you know what normal is first, and then go do the test yourselves. Because if you don't know what normal is, you don't know what you're looking at, it's not going to help you at all.
I don't know.
What do you like?
I never know what I'm looking at anyways. So honestly.
What else? Do you have anything?
Radiopedia is also really nice too.
Radiopedia.
Yeah,
yes.
so
Yeah.
for those of you that don't know, there's a website called Radiopedia. There's various radiographs that are online. It's kind of like a Wikipedia for radiology, where there are people that write up articles on certain conditions, and then they kind of almost explain what to see in certain images. So it's kind of like a very nice resource to access to basically take a look at certain trauma or certain normals that we were talking about before. So that's a pretty cool resource as well.
Make sure you come to the labs as well, because that is where you learn most of your radiology, I find.
Yeah.
Like in lecture, you just go over the stuff, but in lab, that's where you actually get to apply your knowledge.
I don't want to say anything about the lab. I can't. But you know what I want to say. Anyways,
We're actually
we're actually recording in. I mean, if it's not allowed, we're not here. But if it's okay, we're actually in the radiology lab right now
It's a good place to study.
because no one's ever here. But like no,
It's a very quiet study
yeah,
area.
yeah.
It's a very nice.
It was actually
isolated,
useful. It was
quiet
actually
area.
useful during like mod 2. I think some of us came to
They
study.
have a bunch of
You guys didn't invite me.
Hmm? No, you came.
You did.
They have a bunch of radiographs, a bunch of slides that you can look at with a bunch of different I don't know. Yeah, a bunch of different slides that you can look up to
So
test your
my-
knowledge as well.
My favorite study resource is Portfolio.
Okay.
How do you use it to study?
I was gonna say.
I look back on my September reflections.
Yep.
And
you
then I
reflect
read
about
it.
that?
He's
I
reflecting on his
think about
reflections.
that. I look at it. I think about it every night. I go back on my portfolio,
Yeah.
and then I look at my September reflections of what I did on like a CP class. And I read it over and over again.
What about the glossaries?
Oh yeah, I always check back on my glossary.
Yeah.
Always.
Knowing those definitions are really important.
Especially for year 2, like.
No, that's actually true, but I always look up my definitions. Every single day you review it. Every single day. If you don't know what, like, if you don't know what, like, vitalism is, you don't even talk to me. If you can't define what, I don't know, what shit.
Heuristic.
Yeah, no, if you don't even know what business is, don't even talk to me. You better brush up on that glossary. But one of the actual good one other good resource is on the Chiro homepage. I'm actually surprised at like how many different kind of search engines and kind of like hidden kind of resources that there are. There was this one resource, I forget what it's called, but it has like pictures of actual like anatomy for anatomy. It has like more live pictures, and then you can kind of like label them or something like that, or you click on a place and you guess what it is.
I think it was a university resource.
Yeah,
from a different school.
That was pretty useful, and there's other like kind of honestly, like if we didn't have complete anatomy, there'd be way more stuff to use on that resources page, because there's a couple of kind of like flash
Well, Anatomy TV is a really good one too.
Yeah, but I feel like a couple of those resources have become a bit obsolete with Complete Anatomy, with how like resourceful it is.
Agreed.
But otherwise, I feel like we're given quite a bit of resource options, and
Yeah, absolutely. I think that for me, the biggest resource that I say that I'd use for studying and all that would be the lectures themselves. Honestly, almost all of the information you're going to need is going to be on that lecture. If you can't find something on there, you either have the note service that you can purchase, you can do that, or you can go back into the Panopto, which most professors are using.
Panopto.
I would say Panopto is probably my best
Thank
resource.
God. Holy. Come on, leave something. Go ahead.
I don't typically do online lectures. I prefer to go to class, but I feel like I use Panopto more as a study or like review material, just in case it's like to pick up on things that I might have missed or to clarify things that I didn't necessarily get down in my notes. Especially for certain courses, you'll find different resources that help you the best. So I find for like say like for me, I use Panopto mostly for biochemistry. But I mean, again, like you'll find even within like anatomy, you'll find like maybe like complete anatomy doesn't really help you. You'll find maybe like Ackland's is better, right? But you'll find out that there's so many resources out there that you'll find one that works for you, right? So.
Okay, so we are finally living in the 21st century. When I was an undergrad, everyone like there'd be people who bring their like little like Sony recorders and then bring them at the top front of the podium, and that would be kind of the recording. And then on the Facebook groups, everyone would always beg for those recordings because everyone wants to re-listen to those recordings to study because that's what the exams are on. And it's like no different here. But thank goodness there's Panopto. Finally we're living in 2018. We're not living in like 1984 anymore, where there's not only audio recording but video recording, and it is so helpful for like so many of these classes because sometimes okay, first of all, if you have other obligations and you can't make it, and let's say you don't have note service, like what do you do? But even with note service, like I feel like it's way more kind of absorbing. I think a lot of people are like that. If you're either there for the lecture or like you're first-hand hearing the words come out of the instructor's mouth. And for certain things where like DI or anatomy where there's drawings going on, when you're in lecture, it's hard to both listen, process, draw, and type at the same time. Unless you're like Dr. Octopus or something. But like what Panopto lets us do is you can pick something to do. Like in lecture you can just listen, or you can just type, or you can only draw. And then when you go home, you have the exact recording again, so you can go at your own pace and go over stuff that you missed or like is super complicated or you didn't get a drawing for. And I think that's honestly probably the biggest, like, I know some of in upper years they didn't have that before, and I don't know, I'm super grateful that we finally have that technology after all these years.
For sure. So how about I lost my train of thought.
It's okay, we'll get it back after this break.
Stupid topic.
Okay, so yeah, we're back, but we were just discussing off the recording some other resources, and I guess we were just only talking about kind of study resources because there's a ton more we can talk about, like the simulation lab as we had in our last episode with Dr. Starmer, or kind of open lab times to study on your own. But in terms of kind of like a pure study as in like the traditional sense, that's what we'll just talk about today. But we're going to move on to our final topics. It's going to be a bit of a shorter episode because of all this trespassing. Or no, wait, that's not the right word. Betrayal. Yeah, so at CFCC there used to be an old pool. I've been told that there were like water sports sometimes and people swam. Possibly other marine life. But it was closed down recently, maybe in the last like year or 2 years ago? A year ago?
I'm not sure.
2 years ago?
At least 2 years.
But yeah, so so that means there's this big space at school, and sometimes I think about like what that space should be turned into, and I guess we should go around and give our input.
Yeah, absolutely. So it should definitely be turned into a foam pit. What we use that foam pit for, I don't know. Maybe we get a couple ramps and we jump into them with like BMX bikes, like I know some people are doing tonight.
Oh
yeah,
that'll be fun. I went last time and it was
it was a blast.
it was amazing.
Yeah, Nick Chow was incredible.
Yeah, how was it, Nick?
I finally learned how to ride a bike.
Hey.
I have a couple of ideas for that space. First of which is the obvious: a wrestling ring, a cage.
Yeah, I think a cage is better.
We're still fighting to get that implemented. No progression has been made, but you know, Rome wasn't built in a day, and the wrestling ring won't be either.
That's it. You can quote me on that. Isaac Kim 2018. But in more serious sense, I think that the weight room should be expanded. Imagine like we can have like a legitimate like big weight room with like 2 or 3 cardio machines, a couple of bikes, and like 30 squat racks.
So I feel okay. I haven't seen the pool, but I feel like there's enough space that we could probably split in half and like either make the gym big, expand the gym, or just make like another gymnasium. So like here I seem to see we have basically intramurals that run each week, and I feel like we could probably use like more like just gymnasium space for it. So
I don't know if you split it like maybe like
just like recreational.
like, make like a squash room or like a badminton court or. But honestly, I think the weight room should be expanded.
I kind of agree with what Isaac was saying too. Like expanding a weight room would be pretty nice. Like
So many people are like active at the school, and everyone's like working out.
definitely.
And it's like it's just law of conservation of mass. Like, you know, if there's 10,000 gains to be made, and there's only so many people, you got to spread the wealth. It'd be nice to have a bigger gym.
Yeah, it'd be nice to like maybe have like an open concept gym kind of where everything's very minimalistic, and then another gym's more like cardio based where you do like your machines, biking and all
Steve
that.
Jobs style.
So it would be a nice way to do that.
So which one of you guys is funding that?
Well,
The foam pit is a pretty good idea.
I could go back to my original funding idea from last year. If there is a wrestling tournament with a $2,000 opt out and a $10 opt in, at minimum we are making $2,000 if everyone has to opt in, and if just one person opts out because they don't want to get Batista bombed, already we've increased the profit by 1,000%. Now I'm not a big economics person, but
Clearly.
I feel like that's a pretty good profit or pretty good just margin of gain, and a couple of people, let's say like 10 people opt out, and I mean if your tuition's like $30,000 a year, it's another $2,000, right? So already
On those $140,000
there is some
loans,
truth. There is some truth in that.
10 people opt out, let's say I don't know, and things like medical reasons do not exempt you from opting out. If you have a broken leg or like you physically cannot get Batista bombed, you must get a doctor's note and opt out with $2,000. And I mean,
You have to do both?
Yeah, I mean, sure. Everyone's gonna say like, "Oh, you can't do that legally. You're gonna go to jail for that kind of stuff." No, it's gonna happen, and we're gonna have like $20,000 of funding, and it's like if every year does that, it's like $80,000. And let's say the school just gives $20,000. We have $100,000 to renovate and upgrade that blank space. So just some food for thought. Nick Shaw, what's your dream space there?
My dream space?
Yeah.
A bed.
Hey,
nap room.
Oh.
That is actually a good
You already
idea.
have a library. I don't
chairs?
know why you need to know nap room.
It'd be nice
Well,
to
sometimes,
chairs.
depending where you sit, the library can be pretty rowdy.
The front of the library. Okay, so it's actually true. The front of the library is actually sometimes more rowdy than like
The rest of the library.
than even the weight room. Like when there's no music playing at the weight room and people are just quietly working out, sometimes it's actually quieter in the weight room than it is in the library.
The front of the library.
That's where all the computers are, so make sure bring your own computer or laptop or whatever if you want to study. We have the upstairs quiet area.
But that place, the problem I have with that place is like, it's like a greenhouse, and it just gets a little too warm sometimes.
So my comment about the front of the library is us first years should really be more respectful to all the other students and faculty here and probably be quiet in the library.
Well, it's not just us.
Hey, that's just Ryan. He always causes a ruckus there.
Okay.
You know, if we actually had a nap room, I kind of think, even if there was like, but how would you do the sanitary? Maybe people can like wipe their, like it could be like, instead of those stretching mats, just make a giant one. And
Yeah.
people have to wipe their own mats off after they sleep. That could work.
Bring your own sheets. So it kind of be like a gymnastics.
Or yeah, you have to bring your own bed sheets. And it's like,
You mean we don't have the budget for like the eggs?
No.
unfortunately not.
Yeah. That's a shame.
I found it pretty funny.
Okay, so we had a big tangent recorded, but we figured it was a little too rowdy to put on this at the end of this episode. So we're going to conclude this episode now. I want to thank everybody for listening and our participants once again, whose names will be on the screen. And then tune in next time. We have a very special episode. This is going to be our first interprofessional podcast. But don't hold my word to it, because maybe it won't happen, but it probably will. So tune in next time.
Just from the back and the beat that be banging the kick, drum and the clap. Got my old school Alpine system intact, so when I'm losing